Thank you so much for joining us. It's always good to have you.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Let's start on trade. President Trump says progress is being made. He's delayed the tariff increase deadline. President Xi and President Trump will meet. Alibaba shares rose on this news. What kind of a deal would you like to see?
Well, there are a lot of issues in this trade deal, but I think the important thing is that the tariff is going to stop. I think that'll help a lot of businesses on both sides of the ocean. The Chinese manufacturers will get a reprieve. That'll help them to continue to export. So it's going to be good for the businesses that are operating on Alibaba's platform.
What if that doesn't happen?
I think the dialogue between the United States and China is going to be a continuous dialogue. Trade is not the only issue. There are issues on intellectual property. There are issues on industrial policy. So I expect that that'll be a continuous conversation. Of course, the tariff itself is really a sort of an enforcement mechanism. But if you look at Alibaba's business, our business is driven by domestic consumption and also corporate digitization. So even though we have some parts of our business that are tied to exports, but most of the business within Alibaba is driven by domestic consumption, with now 300 million consumers, middle-class consumers that are buying things. They're going to demand more products. I think over time, even if there is no trade deal now, over time, the trade deficit between China and the United States will structurally correct itself as China will import more because we have an economy that is domestic consumption has become a bigger part of the economy. So the Chinese government is talking about over the next 15 years importing $30 trillion of goods and also $10 trillion of services. I think that's a very important thing as American service companies in healthcare, in banking, can move to China and set up a foothold and serve the Chinese population.
So what does it all mean for Alibaba whether or not a deal happens?
We operate for the long term, so we're hopeful that a deal will happen. Obviously, the markets have responded to that, but if you look at our core businesses, most of it is tied to domestic consumption, as I said. So even if it doesn't happen, we're going to continue to chug along and focus on our strategy. Our strategy in new retail, for example, is focused on digitizing the domestic retail sector, making retail more efficient. And that is all driven by domestic consumption.
How optimistic are you, based on what you've seen, that a deal will be reached?
I've said before, I'm always half glass full kind of guy. So we are, cautiously optimistic based on the developments. Obviously, the two delegations from the countries have met several times, and President Trump has said that there's going to be a meeting between him and President Xi at a place and time to be determined, I believe. So I think these are positive developments, and the signaling is pretty good right now.
Alibaba Pictures co-produced Green Book, which just won an Oscar for Best Picture. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Despite some controversy, this is the first time a Chinese internet company has ever helped produce an Academy Award winner. Does this encourage you to invest more in Hollywood?
I think you have to look at this particular case as what it represents in terms of what we want to do in investing in movies. We want to invest in quality production, and the process of us committing to this project and greenlighting this project internally is a very interesting thing. One of our team members saw the movie, and she really pushed this internally, and so the committee that decided to commit our capital to help to make the movie was convinced that this was going to be a quality production. We got involved because we see the opportunity to bring high quality content into China. So we went through a process of getting this project screened through the quota system. And so the movie is now going to premiere in China on March 1st. Tickets are going to be sold on our internet platform, Taopiaopiao, and we expect a very, very good result.
Do you know if any of the trade talks involve getting better access to the Chinese market for U.S. studios, getting better ticket revenue, for example?
I'm not aware of whether that's a specific conversation within the trade negotiations, but I think overall trend is that China is going to be more open for imports, not just in goods, but also services, including content. We're hopeful that over time that'll happen. As I said, $10 trillion of services over the next 10 years, service imports into China. That's going to be very exciting.
And are Chinese officials encouraging Alibaba, encouraging Chinese companies to invest in U.S. entertainment?
Currently, all the decision-making we make on investing in overseas, whether it's imports or content or things like that, is driven by our company management. We just may think that in this particular case, in the case of the Green Book, it makes a lot of sense for us to make that investment.
We are here at the Sports Innovation Summit at the Stanford Graduate School of Business, and you are the owner or co-owner of 3 sports teams, the Brooklyn Nets, New York Liberty, San Diego Seals. What attracted you to make these investments?
First of all, I love sports. I played sports through high school, college, and I just think it's the values of what you learn on the field can carry you very far in life. So I encourage all kids, including my own kids, to play sports.
But it's also a business opportunity for
absolutely,
you.
it's a business opportunity.
How much revenue are these teams driving?
If you look at an NBA team, it's actually a very good proposition from a business standpoint. I think the NBA is not just a league, it's a very substantial media and entertainment company. It's a very well-managed company, and the structure of the NBA is set up so that there's very good balance of between the owners and the players, and also among the owners. I was attracted to the NBA because of the international growth opportunities. When you look at markets like China with 300 million fans, the potential increase in the media rights in those markets, not just China, but also India. You're looking at Mexico, Indonesia, Philippines. So those opportunities are going to be tremendous in the future.
The NBA just announced a branded league in Africa. Why not Asia? We know in China there are a lot of basketball fans.
I don't know. You're going to have to ask Adam Silver about the geographic location, but I think the Africa League is going to help the NBA to develop players in Africa. Obviously, they've decided that there is also going to be a local fan base in Africa. There's a lot of sort of developmental aspect to that league. I think it's very exciting. I think having leagues in other parts of the world is a little bit more challenging because in Europe and also in Asia, they already have local leagues that's already been formed, playing games and all that. So I think that's one of the reasons why NBA picked Africa.
There's a mixed record for sports diplomacy dating back to the 1970s and the ping pong games, ending up with President Nixon visiting Beijing. Do you think sports could help improve tensions between the U.S. and China?
I think absolutely, because when you see athletes competing on the field and then when they get off the field or the court, they become friends, these are real authentic stories between people. And I think that people-to-people exchange, this real sort of true friendship that's genuine, authentic, is going to help the two countries understand each other better.
6 months until Jack Ma steps down as chair. How is the transition going, and how does the company change once that happens?
Well, the whole thing about a transition is that the company doesn't change. And Jack has done a very smart thing by announcing it 1 year ahead of time to give people ample time to sort of adjust to the new system. And the great thing is we have a great CEO in place, Daniel Chang. He's been the CEO of the company for over 3 years. He's going to take over as executive chairman of the company, and he's been with the company for, I think, 12 years now. And someone who is sort of homegrown, developed within our system. We're very, very proud that we've been able to take our younger executives and develop them into leaders.
Alibaba has bought a few foreign e-commerce platforms, lazada. What's next for Alibaba in e-commerce and more broadly?
Well, from an e-commerce standpoint, I think if we're accessing local market consumers, we like Southeast Asia and South Asia, and these are the markets that we want to focus on. So the platform of Lazada, with being operating in 6 countries, will be the focus over kind of the near to medium term. We're going to have to wait and see what we do, because it's very, very it's a very big undertaking to do something to serve consumers outside of China for any company. So I think for us, we're going to take it one step at a time.